Hi, so this is a repair for the Singer Tiny Serger when it is stopping up on you. Now there are 4 rubber feet at the bottom. You remove those from right here. Just pull those out and there will be screws up in there. You take those screws out and this top is going to lift right off. Alright, now once you're in there, what you will see, and the whole thing wants to fall apart at this stage, so be careful with it. You'll see this little motor assembly here. Now what I've done is I've already taken this out, but this gear in there cracks. Okay? It gets a little crack in it, right there, and that spreads the distance of those teeth apart, and it cannot go in there. But if you give it a little gas or a little push, it'll start back up again, and then it'll roll for a while until it gets caught again. Now I cleaned this up real good, soap and water, wiped off all the grease, and I'm going to show you how to repair this gear. Online people say use a little super glue, but as you know, super glue is not going to hold up under a motor. Super glue is better for things that are sitting on the shelf, but epoxy on the other hand, let's talk about epoxy. Epoxy, that stuff will last forever. Now, but if you try to get the epoxy in there, you're not going to get enough in there to hold it. Now, I've tried these kind of melting solutions where I try to melt plastic back together, and by God, that is just always a disaster. That little gear is so delicate. So what I've done is I've taken another piece of plastic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put epoxy on that piece of plastic. One sec. Alright, so you have a little bit of light pressure on this gear to keep it closed. Not a ton, but you want to keep it closed when you're epoxying it, because that's the whole thing. If you epoxy it and you don't have it closed, well, then you've still got that gap in there. So what I've done is I'm just going to put a rubber band around these pliers, just so it's snug, but not, not the death grip. You put a death grip on those little teeth, and that'll be the end of them. So now I got a little tension on there to keep it closed. What I'm going to do is I've already mixed my epoxy, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to epoxy an end onto this so that it'll be sealed all the way around, and that'll give it a stronger hold. And then once I'm done with that, this motor shaft, because it sticks out a little further, let's see if we can see that. Because that motor shaft sticks out a little further than that, I'd like to get you a little more light on that subject. There we go. See, it sticks out a little further. But the second gear here that it's riding on, so we can cut off this shaft. Now I'm going to do that with a Dremel. You could do that with, or you could even epoxy the thing on and then drill a hole through it. So either way. So I'll show you the finished project. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this epoxy. Glop it, glop, 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 the Galapagos Islands on it, And when I washed it with soap, and I was careful not to get my hands to touch it again because of the problem with that grease. If that grease touches that area, if it gets back on that area, it's just not going to hold up. Alright, so I'm not going to be shy with this. Now with epoxy, I also like to kind of twist it a little to make sure that it gets a good seat. And the other great thing about epoxy, once I've got it on there, I leave it the fuck alone. Because my tendency is to start diddling and daddling with it. And I'm going to actually leave the area because I can't help myself. I want to check and see if it's good, and then I get excited to see if the repair is going to work, and I try it too soon. The best thing I can do, once I'm happy with its position, so as you've seen, I've just epoxied a thing on there with that gear closed. Now I'm going on a trip, a vacation, far away from here. God help me. Yeah. Alright, so that's what I'll do, and then I'll show you the other part later. Hi, so I realized a couple of things as I was starting to put my end cap on there. One is that it was going to be a bitch to get it on that shaft. Mostly that. So what what I decided here was to clamp it down real good with the thing, clamp it together, and then just epoxy the hell out of that. Hopefully that'll hold it together. And my concern now is that I don't have it clamped together good enough because it's actually on the shaft. But I think that I'll be able to file that a little bit, and I'll let you know if it works. Alrighty, so the epoxy is set, and again I left it alone for 8 hours. Epoxy needs 8 hours to set. I also took my knife blade and scraped a little bit of the grease off of that gear there, and re-greased that plastic gear. So basically I just clamped it together with my my funky pliers here. Not too careful to not put too much pressure to crack it, and then just epoxied it on the shaft. I had to scrape a little bit, you know, but it's spinning fine now. So it's a hair rough, and it'll catch if you're turning it with this thing. So you have to kind of, you know, I'm sure that'll take a little bit, which I'm not happy with, you know. I'm really not, but so there it is. Well, after much finagling, there it is, and I'll be damned if the thing doesn't work. They're a little tricky to thread, but and I'm not super happy with the, you know, on-off. I wish it had to slow the fuck down, but it doesn't. So you just let it do its stuff. And because I don't really understand how to get it out of there, you know, I just let it thread out for a minute and then just snip that off. But there it is, and the repair held, you know. There it is. It gives you a nice little surge. So there you have it.